me ask you something. Do you ever feel like you're working your tail off, but still feel financially behind?
Like no matter how much you make, the bills, the debt, the stress, it just keeps piling up.
If that sounds familiar, you're not broken. You're just stuck in a system that was never built to help you win with money.
Exactly. And today we're going to talk about the one thing that's holding most people back from financial freedom: debt.
In this episode of the FI Crash course, we'll break down what debt really is, the way it quietly steals your options, and most importantly, how to crush it for good.
We're talking practical tools, proven strategies like Snowball, avalanche, and even the hybrid method that can work for real people with real lives.
Plus, we're going to show you how to protect yourself with a crisis fund, stop the bleeding with no new debt, and take one simple action that can truly change your financial future starting today.
Because here's the truth. You don't need to be perfect. You just need a plan. And we're going to help you build it today.
So whether you're drowning in credit card debt, juggling student loans, or just want to feel in control again, stick with us as we dive right in.
Let's break the cycle and build something better. This is the FI Guys in episode 3 of the FI Crash Course, Mastering Debt. Let's get into it. Debt can feel like a life sentence, but it doesn't have to be. In today's episode, part 3 of the FI Crash Course, we're breaking down what debt really is, why it's so damn heavy to carry, and how to get rid of it for good. We'll give you strategies that work, real life examples, and one key action step that will help you move from stress to stability. We'll also explain why killing debt increases your savings rate, and that's the engine behind financial independence. So before we get started, I want to talk about what debt really is. In opening that, I want to talk about the 4 horsemen of personal debt: mortgage, student loans, credit cards, and the worst one, medical bills. But before we get into that, Dominic, what do you think?
Howdy, howdy. Well, welcome into the next episode. I'm so excited to continue this series, the FI Crash course, remastered edition, of course. This has been an exciting series. If you guys haven't seen the first couple episodes, highly recommend those. They're a great place to start out if you're new to the finance game, or if you just want to brush up on some of the techniques to help you reach those financial goals just a little bit quicker. Today's episode, like Chris said, talking about debt, right? So important. So important. Debt's one of those things that if you're not careful, it can definitely wipe you out. And about these four horsemen of the debt apocalypse, these guys are scary. These guys are scary stuff. If you've ever been to the hospital and you're not sure what kind of bills coming your way, you know the feeling, right? You ever spend too much on a credit card you know you shouldn't have? This one is going to hit you a little bit close to home. So I'm super excited to jump into this one, and I hope you guys are too. And if at any point you guys are like, hey, I really resonate with this, and you're watching on YouTube or if you're on Spotify or whatever, right, feel free to comment down below, and we'd love to hear your thoughts and really start a dialogue, start a conversation in the chat so that we can kind of, branch out and get to know each other more and really engage in a new conversation about finance. But with that being said, let's get right into it. And I'm excited to hop into today's episode.
So thank you, Dominic. What I brought up right before we started talking was the 4 horsemen of personal debt. And to make sure that that is what it is clear is that these 4 horsemen is what most Americans, most people around the world, this is where their debt normally comes into. And those 4 is mortgages, owning your home, student debt, trying to better your life, credit cards in order just to survive. And the worst one is medical bills, because how dare you get sick and have the audacity to get sick? We're going to punish you for that. Now, luckily, the medical bills isn't something in every country, but here in America, it is the worst one. So we're going to talk about mortgage, student loans, and medical bills in a little while. But first, I want to talk about credit cards. Credit cards is the financial equivalent of bleeding out. Just so you're aware, the average credit card rate is between 15 and 25%. Some of them even go up to as high as 32%. And I know in episode 2, we talked a lot about how compounding works. Compound interest is like that snowball rolling down a hill. And we like to think about compound interest working with our investments to make more money for us. But compound interest also works against you in the way of your debt growing and growing and growing. So I'd like to introduce the rule of 72. The rule of 72 says if you take whatever your interest rate is, or whatever you believe your investments are going to return for you, and you divide it by 72, that's how long it's going to double. So with that being said, if we want to say the stock market returns on average 7.2% a year, then that means you divide 72 into, or 7.2 into 72, that gives you 10 years, meaning your investments will grow roughly double every 10 years. But if you have a credit card and that credit card has something like, I don't know, a 25, 26% interest rate on it, that means that your debt will grow exponentially, double every 3 years. So compound interest is our friend, and it can be our worst enemy.
That is scary. That is a scary sight to behold. And I don't think that's something that a lot of us want to think about. So thank you for bringing up a pretty scary topic today, Chris. But it's something that we have to talk about. You know, debt is a part of life. You're not going to get away with it. And I know for today's podcast, you know, we're talking a lot about how debt is bad, debt is evil, and let's get rid of debt, right, permanently. And while this is true, we also want to recognize that debt is a great thing, right? When used properly, right? I don't know if any of you guys have ever bought a house or planning to buy a house. If you try and buy a house without debt, it's going to be pretty hard, right? Unless you're, I don't know, building your own house and you want to live in like a shack. I don't know. Or you're just rolling in it. Maybe your income is just crazy. Maybe you're like, yeah, I can buy a $500,000 house. I have that saved. Maybe that's you. And hey, all praise to you. That's respect. But even if you did, I don't know if that'd be really a good use of your money. And it's interest rate. It's a whole nother conversation that we're not going to get into. But no, that rule of 72, I always hear it on the positive side. So to hear it on the negative side is so concerning. And I hope you guys have written that one down. The rule of 72, like Chris was saying, was, you know, you take the percentage multiplied by 72. Is it multiply, divide?
Divide.
Gotcha. Multiply. Take your interest rate, divide it by 72. Bing, bang, boom. That's how long it'll take for that to double. And, you know, when you got your own money, you're trying to grow it. That's good. We love it doubling, right? But your debt, we don't want that to double, especially not your debts, because that can get out of control really quickly and you'll find yourself in a hole you can't get yourself out of. So yeah, that's a good one to keep on the waist belt, on the old Batman waist belt. I like that. So yeah, what other tools you got for us, Chris?
You know, I want to talk about something that you just brought up about how debt is just a tool. And I think it's so funny that most places around the world, if you go into personal debt, then that means that you're an idiot, you're dumb, you are irresponsible. But if you look at businesses, when businesses go into debt, well, that's smart debt. They're intelligent. They're doing it the right way. So I think we just need to make sure that when we look at debt, just remember that it's a tool. And I don't understand why when a business uses it, that tool is a good thing. But when an individual uses it, that tool is a bad thing. And a lot of it has to do, I think, with our emotions. Debt holds an emotional toll. Studies link debt to increases in anxiety, depression, and even physical health declines. I have worked with clients who have gone on quote unquote a cheap trip just to find themselves spiral into more and more debt than they expected afterwards in order to pay that off. And not just the debt that was destroying them, the feelings of I'm so dumb for going on that vacation that I couldn't afford at the time, for trying to spend time with my spouse, trying to spend time with my friends, and now I'm dealing with this aftermath over and over and over again. If you don't understand what kind of debt you have and how it's affecting your life, you can't build a plan to escape it. So that's why it's so important to understand what debt is and how do we get out of it. And with that, we're just going to talk about next in segment 2, the 3 proven ways to pay off your debt. But Dominic, it looked like you had a thought before I get into that.
No, I was just, you know, while you were saying something, I wanted to look something up, and where kind of the definition of debt even came from. You know, what's its origin story? I wasn't sure if you knew about that one. If not, I do have a good friend, ChatGPT, who's, you know, working on that to kind of figure that one out. But what I know, I know it's kind of funny. In my studying for like real estate and whatnot, the term mortgage, which is another, I mean, that's debt essentially, is literally like a death contract, which is kind of funny. Not funny. It's just dark. It's really dark to understand where these things come from. And one of the things that stuck out to me when you were talking is a sentence that you said maybe 10, 15 podcasts back, where you have your debit card, right? You have cash. Well, you have cash, you have your credit card, right? And a lot of people, they'll just go to the grocery store. Hey, I'm just going to put this on credit. Cool. But what you kind of reprogrammed my mind to think is like, I'm going to put this on my debt card. My debt card. I'm going to add this to my debt, right? And I'm buying these eggs. They're on sale. I'm getting a 60 pack for $13.98. Big shout out to Sam's Club. And I'm going to put it on my credit card. But, I put it on my credit card and I don't pay it off that month. Well, that sale meant nothing, right? And it's just something to keep in mind is always to spend consciously and not subconsciously, not just like you said in one of the shorts we recorded earlier, right? Don't just passively go through the motion and just like you're hypnotized. Be conscious about the decisions and be intentional and understand that, credit cards are a great tool. And Chris, you can talk more about that than anyone, right? With your credit card hacking and everything like that. Also, that's super high level and we're not going to even touch that today. So that's another podcast. But, it's so important that we understand what debt is, because debt is really, it's chains on you. It's chains. It's weighing you down. And if you really want to break free from the chains, you have to understand it and you have to work through it. And thankfully, I know we're going to be talking a little bit about, the snowball method, hybrid method, avalanche method. And I'm excited to get into that. But yeah, I just wanted to add my little 2 cents in there before we move on.
No, I think that's wonderful. And you remember what debt is? Debt is pulling your future earnings to the present, meaning that I'm putting myself often in debt to myself. But unfortunately, it's not just to myself, it's to somebody else. Because in order for you to pull those future earnings forward to today, that means that someone else has to loan you the money, because you just can't go to future you and say like, hey, me in 20 years, can you give me some money right now? That's impossibility. So what you have to do is go to somebody today to say, hey, future me will pay you back. And that is what debt is you're just taking all of your earnings and you're kicking the can down the road, saying that eventually I will deal with this. Hopefully, if I get another job, if something happens, if things change magically, then I will be out of debt and things will work out. And sometimes that works out for people, but oftentimes it does not, because things never change if things don't change. You're the one that needs to start changing that to figure out what you need to do. So I want to talk about the 3 proven ways to pay off debt. Many of us have heard this before: the debt avalanche and the debt snowball. Those come from Dave Ramsey. We're going to introduce the 3rd one that we came up with here at the Fi Guys. So the debt avalanche. This one is the mathematical winner. It focuses on paying off your highest interest rates first. It saves the most money in the long term, and it's best for people who are numbers driven. So just for a quick way of how you do the debt avalanche, say you have 3 different cards, 3 different types of debt. You have your car payment, and that car has a 5% interest rate. You have your student loans. Your student loans has a 7% interest rate. And you have a credit card. That credit card has 15% interest rate. The debt avalanche would say first things first. Doesn't matter what the balances are on any of those debts. You're going to go for the credit card first. Take out the 15. Once that's all gone, go for the student loans. Take out the 7. Then when that's gone, then we can focus on the car and take out the 5. Again, mathematically, this is the best way to save money. But sometimes, most times, we are not mathematical beings. We're emotional beings. And when we have to think about emotions, that's where the debt snowball comes in. What the debt snowball does is it helps you to pay off the smallest balances first, and it gets you that early win. Let's go back to our earlier example. Maybe the car with 5% interest only had $2,000 left on it, where the credit card had $15,000. It'd be really hard for a lot of people to watch that $15,000 go down slowly, and just feel like they're not making any progress. But sometimes doing the mathematically unoptimal thing by paying off that car first, seeing that go away, not having to write that check, not having to watch that automatic deposit get taken out of your bank account, gives you that win that shows you that I can continue to do this. I can win. More emotional momentum, less math anxiety. That's the way I look at the debt snowball. And I think it's best for people who need motivation to stick with it. Because oftentimes what I found when it comes to paying off debt, the knowledge isn't the issue. It's the consistency. The consistency is what gets people. The boring middle of staying in it day after day after day and not feeling like you're making progress. That feeling like I'm not going anywhere, that is the feeling of growth. I know it sucks because you want it to feel like every single day there's a new sunshine. Every single day, you get to watch this go down, and it's slow and it's arduous. And that's exactly what it feels like. I call it the boring middle. Dominic, before I get to the hybrid method, which is from the Fi Guys, what do you think of this debt snowball and the debt avalanche?
They're cute names. They're cute names. I don't disagree. I think they're nice. It's nice when we can wrap something up in a nice, beautiful little package, and rather than calling it like the debt punisher or death by debt, right? That's snowball. I like that. It's cute. It's fun. It's nice. I like it. Hybrid's going to be my favorite, so I'm excited to get into that one next. But I absolutely love what you were saying, and I took some notes on that. If you saw me writing some stuff down on knowledge isn't the problem, consistency is. And I think a lot of you can relate to that. I think we can all relate to that. Right? I am not included in that. I'm definitely included in that, because for me, I know myself. I have a good amount of knowledge, not all the knowledge, obviously, on God, but I have a lot of knowledge. But it's the consistency. If we don't take action on the knowledge we have, it's just disrespectful. It really is. And it's one thing to blame ignorance, but it's another thing to blame laziness. Right? So I loved what you were saying about actually taking action and truly getting after it. Right? Because whether you're sitting on the couch being lazy or you're getting after it, you're trying to earn a little bit more money to really tackle this debt, the debt's going to grow either way. Right? But if you actually do something about it, get up off your butt and actually put a plan in place, whether it's, avalanche or snowball method, or maybe even a hybrid, what we're going to learn about next. The only thing that's going to change is whatever you change. Right? It's not going to change on itself. In fact, it's only going to get bigger. And that is a scary thing. It's a scary thing. But it's only scary in the mind, right? So let's get after it. And it's not as scary as we think it is. Right, Chris? I mean, I'm sure you've been through your life. You've had a little bit of debt. You've paid off a little bit of debt. It's not that scary, right? There's nothing to be afraid of.
You have to look at it. If you refuse to look into that corner, if you refuse to open the closet and see, or go under the bed and see what's down there, yes, it is scary. But when you look at that monster, you look into the eyes, you realize that a lot of times, yeah, it's like a cat. It's like a scary cat, but it's not that tiger that you fear it is. But you need to be able to take that second to look at it, to start figuring out a plan. We fear things we don't understand. But if you have the ability to look at it, to start to try to understand, you can usually make a plan to figure it out. So I want to move on to the hybrid method. Now, Dominic, I'm pretty sure you and I were the first ones to bring up the hybrid method back at the Fi Crash course in our original one. And that was something that I've tried to create using both the mathematical way of looking at it and the emotional way of looking at it. Because what I always like to say is there's a middle way. You don't have to go to one extreme of it's only mathematical or it's only emotional. We can find something that works for all of us here. So the hybrid method is a hybrid of both the debt avalanche and the debt snowball. And what it is you knock out a couple of small wins, then you attack the big ones. It's a custom strategy that's built to each individual based off of their own needs. And it works best in both worlds. It's great for families or couples who are juggling multiple debts. There's no quote unquote right method. There's just the one that you can actually follow. So the hybrid method will say, hey, we have all of these debts. Let's go ahead and do this. Let's go ahead and start with the debt snowball. Maybe knock out one just to show and prove to yourself that you can do it. And then from there, let's move on to the avalanche. Then let's go ahead and start working on the highest interest. That way you're getting the best of both worlds. Just because you say you're going to do something doesn't mean you need to stick with it indefinitely. I found too many people that I've coached and worked with who are like, I'm doing the debt avalanche and I have to stick with it. Like I have to keep doing this even though I hate it. Again, if you're at any point on this journey of financial independence, any point of your life, and you're just like, I effing hate this and I can't keep this going, you're playing the game wrong. You need to change something in yourself in order to be able to enjoy this life, in order to enjoy the process. I'm not saying you have to love the process at every moment, but you shouldn't actively hate it.
No, I think that's super important. I think that's so important. I know a lot of people who have such a negative taste in their mouth with dealing with finance, right? It's not fun. It's not sexy. It's not, It's not going to keep your attention like a TikTok video or anything like that. But it's one of those things that we have to pay attention to because no one else is. And if someone else is paying attention to it for you, you should at least know the basics and the understanding, right? It's like when you go into business, right? You might not have an accounting degree, right? But you should know how accounting works, right? You might not have a marketing degree, but you should know how these things work, relatively. And it's kind of funny. I love the hybrid. Obviously, the hybrid method's my favorite because it's more custom, right? And I always thought it's like, oh yeah, that's just a thing, right? That's a thing. Only did I realize it's like, no, it's like that's something we came up with. It's like, oh wow, I didn't realize nobody else did this. It's life is a lot more custom than you think it is, right? And same with debt and finance, right? It's not all rules, shackles. Like you're in a box now. Congratulations, this is your life. It's like, no, we can break out the box. We can do things differently. We can pay a few credit cards off here because they're smaller balances. And I love that. And I love what you were saying, Chris, too, about those small wins. I think it's so important, right? Especially if you're in a financial place where it's like, dude, and we hear it every week on the viewer mailbag, right? It's like, I don't know if I'm going to make it out of this. I don't know if I'm going to survive, right? They get in tunnel vision like a horse. It's like, they can't see a way out. It's like, no, how about this? Take that smallest credit card. Let's pay that one off first, right? And then the second one, let's go after that one. And you know what? Let's go after the highest interest one next, right? And then we'll tackle this one and then that one, right? And I just love that. Because so many people are stuck in the mindset that there's only one way to do finance. And we're here to tell you that there's so many different ways. When you hear finance, when you hear personal finance, think of it as personal first, then finance. Not one thing together. It's personal finance that should be a custom just to you, right? Because everyone's different, right? A plan for Chris is going to be different than a plan for Dom, right? And same vice versa, and same with you guys. So I just want you to always keep an open mind and get excited for the hybrid method because that's what we're about to drop. So Chris, teach us about the hybrid method once again. Bring the glory of the hybrid back to home, please.
Yeah, the hybrid method is really great just because it is not, there is no right method. There are no solutions or only trade-offs. And this allows you to make personal finance personal for the first time again. Because there's too many people who go out there and say, oh, if you do the avalanche method, you're stupid. If you do the hybrid method, you're stupid. If you do the snowball method, you're stupid. The nice thing that's about this is, yes, it doesn't give you certainty, but it makes it personal. It allows you to be in control of your own destiny. Too many people go through life hoping that someone else is going to come and be the hero and take care of it all for you. There are two things in life that you cannot farm out to other people. That's your health and your wealth. Doesn't matter how much money I pay my personal trainer. Doesn't matter how much money I pay a financial advisor. They can't take care of everything for me. I need to be involved in some way, shape, or form. Even if I choose to not work with it, it will work on me. If I choose to not take care of my body, if I just like, I'm just not going to do it, I'm not going to deal with it, it's okay, it'll deal with it. Eventually, my health will catch up with me. I will get sick. I will get fat. I'll get whatever it is. Same with my money. If I decide I'm not going to engage with it, I'm just going to let it be. I'm just going to focus on other things. Eventually, something bad will happen. And again, that's not a problem with the money. That's not a problem with the fitness. That's a problem with me and the way that I interact with it. So debt's a huge thing. That's always an issue. What I want to talk about next is why we need a crisis fund and why we need a crisis fund right freaking now. And many of you might be hearing me and saying, Chris, what's a crisis fund? I know about an emergency fund, but what's a crisis fund? So a crisis fund, on my way of looking at things, is the first step. If we're starting out scratch, zero, we don't know what's going on, we need a crisis fund. An emergency fund is typically 3 to 6 months, maybe even a year of reserve savings. But when you tell somebody who's getting started, who's in debt, who's really, really stuck, hey, I need you to also save up 6 months or a year of savings, they're like, bro, I'm $15,000 in debt, and now you want me to save up a year? Like you're crazy. The nice thing about a crisis fund, and what a crisis fund really is it keeps you from falling deeper into debt when life hits. 69% of Americans have less than $1,000 in savings, and I don't want our listeners to be one of them. So what a crisis fund is it is your highest deductible that you have. Most people have deductibles for their cars of $500, $200. Some of them even have $1,000. So what I want you to do is go through your student or through your house, through your mortgage, through maybe even your renter's insurance, through your car insurance or your medical insurance. See which one of those has the highest deductible. Maybe that's $500, maybe that's $200, maybe that's $1,000. And I want you to keep that in your back pocket because there's many things in life that are going to come at you. But the things that are the biggest things that are going to take you down are typically going to also be insured, luckily. And if you are the one listening right now and you're like, Chris, I don't have insurance. I drive my car and I don't have insurance. I can't afford any of that. That's very scary. And I would eventually during the 5 crash course, we will talk about insurance. So we're going to get there to help you out there too. If you don't have a number, if you don't have a deductible to target, then I want you to make it $1,000. $1,000 will help you in case the tire blows out or your dog gets sick. It gets you something, just a little bit, to dig your way out. You don't need to dig your way out of debt to be perfect. You just need to stay a little bit prepared.
It's unbelievable what a little bit of preparation can do. It's unbelievable. I know a lot of us in today's society, we're rushing, right? But if you take the morning to think and plan out your day, and then as the day comes, it hits you and it's like, yeah, no, saw that coming, no problem, done deal, got that handled, this, right? A lot of life stress can be dealt with in the preparation phase. And this is definitely one of those things, right? I hate to say it. And I'm knocking on wood. I'm knocking on wood, right? But the chances that your animal, your pet has to go to the vet, I mean, honestly, it's probably 100%, right? They're going to pass away eventually, and that's not free, right? And if they don't, there's other things, right? I got sick a couple months back, right? I was out for a week, right? I had to go to the doctor. I didn't expect it, right? Thankfully, I had insurance, so it covered it. But if I didn't, well, where's that money going to come from, right? You know, when you're not in a great financial situation, and if you're listening to this podcast, maybe you're in that spot, and something like that happens, right? Where I'm already in a bad situation, and then more stuff gets piled on. This crisis fund is that cushion. It's the suspension on landing, right? It's oh man, it's like, okay, cool. I'm not going to get completely wiped out. Like I'm already having a bad day, but at least I have this, right? At least I was prepared. And I literally, I beg you, I truly beg you, prepare now, right? There's an ancient saying, I forget what it is, but it's basically like, you know, buy your umbrellas when you don't need them, because when you do need them, they're not going to be there. Something like that, right? Essentially, that's what I'm trying to say. And, you know, I don't think the crisis fund is talked about enough. I really don't. I don't think it's super difficult to do. I think it's maybe a little hard for those who are paycheck to paycheck, right? I'm not saying save 1,000 instantly. And if you can, you know, that's a whole nother conversation on the need for it. But, yeah, you got to get one. And I feel like I'm rambling for a second because I'm so passionate about this one. I'm just so passionate about this. This is like so important. Because like you said, Chris, the emergency fund feels out of reach for a lot of people. Like, what do you mean save 6 months, Chris? $15,000 in the hole. What do you mean? I can't do that. That's impossible. It's too big. But I'm curious to see your thought on this one, though. Is it possible to where it's like, okay, Chris, I saved 1,000. You know what? Maybe the emergency fund is doable. Do I just build onto that until it gets to the 6 months, or however much the emergency fund would be for a person, right, in their situation? Or is there ever a place where the emergency or the the emergency fund and the crisis fund kind of come in as one? Or how does that work for you? Are they two separate?
Of course that can happen. Yeah, of course. Again, personal finance is personal, whatever works for you. We have a 10-step system at Mons on Wealth, and we've talked about this here on the Fi Guys in one of our previous podcasts about the order of operations. The way that I've always used the crisis fund is that's something that you have in cash in your house in a safe somewhere. Maybe it's $1,000, maybe it's $3,000. I keep my crisis fund in cash in my safe. And that's for me. And I also have an emergency fund. That's the way that I do it. But that's because I'm a business owner. That's because things happen. That's just because the life can get weird. What happens if we have some sort of global catastrophe where I can't access my money for a little while. That cash cushion, that crisis fund is for a true crisis. It is difficult. There isn't a right way or a wrong way. And that's what we are trying to teach you. Whatever way you can stick to, that is the right way. When people are in distress, when people are going through these hard times, when they're in debt, they are the horse with the blinders on. They are only looking down the pike. They can't see any more. What I have found with working with so many people is when they get this crisis fund, when they have that little bit of money, they can stop trying to just see 2 feet in front of them. It's like trying to drive down the freeway in a very, very thick fog. I'm not sure if you've ever driven on, like, in California, maybe on or in some areas that it's very coastal, where the fog just gets so thick that you can't see anything. That's what it's like to be in debt. That's what it's like to be surviving minute to minute, where you're just going slowly and you're just hoping not to hit anything, but you can't see anything. Having a little bit of money allows that fog to break up just a little bit so you can see 10 feet, 20 feet, 30 feet out in front of you. Once you get that emergency fund, it's like having a helicopter. You're able to see a little bit higher, and you get to go more elevation, more detached, a bigger range of view. That's what this does. That's what getting out of debt, that's what financial independence gives people that follow it. Is that ability to take a 10,000-foot view where most people are stuck in the mire of every single day, trying to figure out, how do I just get to tomorrow? Rather than, how do I live a good life? So, do you have anything to say, Dominic, before we move on?
I love that analogy. I mean, that hit me so hard. I love that. Not being able to see 10 feet in front of you, but with the crisis fund, having a little bit of cushion and being above the fog in a helicopter, being able to, whenever everything else is like going crazy and panicking and everyone else is going off, right? Just being able to see through the chaos. I love that. I love that vision in my own head. I think that's a powerful.
Thank you. So what I want us to do is I want us to be able to commit to no new debt. And this isn't about shame. If you're in debt now, sitting there dwelling on it is going to do absolutely nothing. Me calling you an idiot, me doing what Dave Ramsey does and saying, you're so stupid, you're such a bad person. What does that do for you today? It does nothing. But what you can do, you can't do anything about the past, but what you can do is you can draw a line on the sand right now. We are not anti-credit card here. We are anti-sliding backwards. You can use a credit card strategically. You can use debt strategically, even student loans. All of these things can be used strategically to live a better life. But you can't be doing it if you're just going to put yourself worse and worse and worse. The average American has over $6,500 in credit card debt as of last year. And I could get you that this year it's probably going to be even worse. We don't have that data yet. A pro tip, if you are someone who is struggling with this, is I want you to go cash only for 30 days. I want you to track how much less money you spend when actually spending cash. Too many people think, oh, it's okay, I'll just have this magic credit card and I just go swipe, 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 and then I just get whatever I want. But you have to be able to bridge the gap from who you are today to who you are going to be. And too many of us are willing to sacrifice future us in order to live right now. You want to be a good ancestor, a good steward, so that future you can look back on the decisions that you make right now, today, and say, thank you for setting me up, rather than, man, why did you screw me over so many times? Where you are right now in life is because of decisions that were made by you and by other people that put you to where you are. Hopefully you can look around and be like, yeah, I'm in a pretty good place. But many of us are not. Many of us are at a place that are dark, that's deep, that's scary. And rather than blaming the world, rather than blaming politicians, your parents, the only thing that matters is what you're going to do about it. So look at, how did I contribute to this and what could I have done differently? Because at least that gives you some agency. It gives you some power to make change.
I love that. And it's all about making change, right? It's all about being consistent with that change and not being afraid of the unknown and facing that fear of getting over the debt, facing the fear of just looking at your bank account. In my own life, I'll be honest, right? In my own life, before I started this financial journey, right? I'd be afraid to look at my bank account. And I think a lot of people can relate to that, right? I don't want to see it. I'm scared. I don't want to see it, right? And then once you open it up, it's like, oh, it's not as bad as I thought. That's good. But you got to know. You got to take control. You got to take the data that you have and do what's best and make a personal plan for your personal finance.
Yeah. And sometimes you can look at that bank account and it is worse than you expected. And even then, at least you have the information to know, okay, this is where I am. This is where I need to go. But not looking at it, pretending like it's not real is not going to fix the situation. It's going to make it worse.
100%.
So I want to give us some action steps to building your own personal payoff plan. And step number 1 is I want you to list down all your debts. That means your balances, your monthly payments, and the interest rates. From there, you're just going to choose a strategy: avalanche, snowball, or my and Dominic's favorite, the hybrid method. And remember, whatever method you choose, you just have to choose it for right now. Right now is not an eternity. If you say, hey, Chris, I know that you and Dominic like the hybrid method, but I want to go with the avalanche. And then 2 weeks in, you're like, I hate this, switch. There is no police that's going to run in here and be like, oh, no, you chose this method. You must stick with it. Personal finance is personal. There isn't someone who's going to be watching you. So please just stick with it. You can use a free calculator to map out exactly what your payments are going to be and how long it's going to take you to get there. Then I want you to commit to the plan. Track your wins every single month. Track how much you paid off, because too many people say, when I finally get out of debt, I will be celebrating. When I finally get out of debt, I will win. And that means that sometimes this debt payoff program can take years. It can take decades, depending on where you are in life. And if you feel like you're losing or you're a loser every single day until the day that you win, you will not make it. You need to break this up into chunks so that you can celebrate the small wins along the way. It's not like this. It's not like I'm going to say, hey, I want to go run an ultra marathon. And until I have crossed that finish line, I have lost. No, I'm going to say, hey, at mile 1, look at that. Mile down. Mile 2, mile down. Mile 3, mile down. Mile 26, 26 miles down. Look how well I'm doing. But if I'm saying at mile 1, it's not done. It's not finished. You're a freaking loser. Mile 2, you're still a loser. You're not done yet. You're never going to go ahead and go through that pain, go through the mire, the shit that's going to take you to get there. So I need you to create momentum. Momentum builds freedom. It's not easy, but it's the only thing that you can do. Debt doesn't make you a failure. It makes you human. It makes you work inside of a capitalist system that we currently have. I'm not blaming you for where you are. I'm just saying that you need to take responsibility for where it is and what you're going to do about it. Living with debt doesn't have to be your permanent story. I want you to start where you are, build a plan, stick with it, and remember, every dollar you free up is fuel to your freedom. Dominic, before we close out with our final action step, a more clear action step, what do you have for the people?
That is unbelievable. I think that was so perfectly said. Before we get to the action step, right? There's always going to be someone in your life who has debt. And everyone in your life can always be better. And that's why we always recommend here at the Five Guys to go on this journey with someone else. It's always better to go with a friend, a family member, or heck, even a complete stranger. There's nothing sadder than reaching your goals financially, becoming financially free and living that life. Maybe it's like, hey, now I don't have to work. Now I can be on vacation more often, or I can choose when I want to work. And you look to your best friend and say, hey, let's go on this trip. They say, I can't. I didn't know about finance. Nobody told me about it. Why didn't you tell me about it? I could have started many years ago. So make sure to always lift your friends up, lift your family up, bring a friend along, right? Tell them about the Five Guys. Introduce them to the Five Crash course. It's a great place to start, right? Episode 110, I believe, is where the Five Crash course truly starts. But this is an important podcast. This is an important episode, right? You're going to deal with debt throughout your whole life. You're not going to escape it. So it's better to learn about it, how you can better use it, how you can better navigate it, and make sure that you're getting the most out of it versus it getting the most out of you.
Thank you, Dominic. Our action step for the week is I want you to create a one-page debt snapshot. And then I want you to choose your personal payoff strategy. Again, you don't have to choose it forever. Just choose it to at least get started. So this week, I want you to get everything out of your head and onto one piece of paper. Because in your head, it's scary. In your head, you can't make heads or tails of it. But on a piece of paper, it's physical. I can deal with something physical. I can't deal with something emotional, something that is unseen. So I want you to list every single debt that you owe, even the ones that feel small or even embarrassing to write down, especially if it's embarrassing to write down. I want you to name the debt: credit card debt, student loan debt, mortgage. I want you to write down the balance, and I want you to write down the minimum monthly payment. After that, we're going to write down the interest rate. I don't care how you decide to format this. I don't care if you decide to do it in spreadsheets, if you write down on a piece of paper. You can format it whatever way makes you feel good. Then I want you to choose your plan. If you want to do motivation, go with the snowball. If you want to go savings and what's the best fiscal or mathematical way of doing it, do the avalanche. If you want to do the hybrid because it feels right, do that. Then I want you to circle the debt that you choose, and I want you to start to tackle it. That's your starting line. And know that when you're in it, you're going to feel like you're not making progress, like you're sitting there working so hard and nothing is changing. That's going to be a part of the financial independence journey. That is the part of life. There are so many moments that you go and you start something and you see progress right up front. And you're like, man, it's going to be like this forever. And then you hit that plateau. And that plateau does not mean you failed. It means that you're growing. That is what growth feels like. It feels like absolutely nothing. And I wish it was different, but it's not. So let's work with what we have. And please stick with us for the FI Crash Course. Next week in episode 4, we're going to be talking about investing and wealth building for the modern age. Dominic, before we close out, can you tell the people anything that you need to tell them?
Well, guys, remember to always keep a smile on your face. Always stay positive, right? It's always darkest right before the dawn, and the dawn is coming. And if you're in a bad financial situation, then this is your wake-up call. And we're here to help you guys. You're not alone on this journey, and you have this. You got this. Truly. We'll see you guys back here on Friday for our recap of Monday's episode with a viewer mailbag, as always. The juiciest part of the week. Gotta love it. But with that being said, I'm Dom. He's Chris for the FI Guys, and we'll see you guys on Friday.
Later.
This video podcast is sponsored by Monzon Wealth. The content in this podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered financial advice. We do not endorse specific products or services. Past performance does not guarantee future results. The opinions expressed are those of the hosts and guests, not the podcast sponsor.
It is crucial to consult with a qualified financial advisor or professional who can provide advice tailored to your specific needs before making any financial decisions, investments, or taking any other actions. If you are seeking specified help, you can reach out to Chris at monzonwealth.com.